tragic accidents just happen all the time in Carroll County. I'm just saying. It's a very, very unlucky place to live. They dropped the charges because it was accidental. You don't accidentally run over somebody and back up and try to do it again. Let's start from the beginning as investigative reporters, right? So you would ask the questions who, what, where, when, and why. Should be easy, right? Of course it is. Yes, I know, you're innocent until proven guilty, but what good does that do you if you are not alive?
Well, hello, my silky friends. Yeah, it's a Friday night. I know, you're going to catch it on the replay. That's okay. Hello, Samantha. Yeah, I know you're going to catch it on the replay. Let me say hello. Hello, Daniel Berry. Did y'all look at the stream I did last night? It got crazy. Everybody's thoughts were out of the box. I loved it. I did. I love hypothetical stuff. But I want to say a shout out to Something to Say, because she reached out to me early this morning, and I had to work all day. And so I was trying to research, but she sent me this story that I had not heard. A couple of people have heard it since. It's starting to get some traction. But this is a case that is really, really important to me because so many reasons. There are so many reasons. This one gets me. Like, it gets me in the gut. And at this point, it's brand new. I mean, things are just coming out and developing. So thank you. Something to Say. Hello. How are you doing? It bothered me so much. It was very intriguing, so I started looking it up, and this is fresh. So fresh that the funeral, memorial service, whatever it's going to be, has not even occurred yet. But I am fighting mad about it, and let me just say from the get-go, okay, before you come at me, and I said it before, y'all know this, I am a Christian. Okay, I'm unapologetic about it. But as such, this infuriates me. This church, this pastor, I have nothing nice to say. Okay, so understand that whatever I say, I'm not blasting Christianity in any way, shape, or form as far as the real. Okay, the real. But the fake, I've been over it for a very long time. And I'm going to start out by just showing you, I guess it was last Sunday's. Now, I didn't realize this when I first started watching this video, but this pastor has already, and it is a very modern church, okay? Whatever, to each his own. I don't have anything against modern churches. I went to one and for a very long time. But this pastor has already preached a whole sermon, okay? He was very charismatic. He was funny. He was joking. He was acting like he always had. But at the end of the service, this is what happened. So let me see if I can play this for you.
I'm going to make an announcement, and after the announcement, I'm going to ask that you you leave church quietly and don't talk about the announcement here in the building, please, if you can. So y'all can stand to your feet. Before I make the announcement, I also want to say that my request to you is that you will continue to come to church and serve and give for the next, little bit. 'Cause I don't want to have. I'm taking a little bit of a break, and I don't want to have to worry about the church. My break may be a few days, a few weeks. I don't know. I got a call late last night. My wife has passed away, and and it was self-induced, and it was up in North Carolina, and we're gonna have a funeral for her next Sunday here at 3 p.m. And so it's all I can. Yeah, I'm just kind of going on adrenaline right now. So y'all pray for me and my kids and everybody. And she wasn't. Y'all knew that she wasn't well mentally, and that she needed her medicine that was hard to get to her. And so I'm sure there'll be more details to come. But just keep our family in your prayers. And I'm going to let Pastor Randall, my bishop, he can pray. I'll give him a microphone. He'll pray out. And if you have anything you want to share as well, I'd appreciate it.
Come on, let's pray.
Okay. I don't know if any of that bothered you all. Let me just tell you, the very first thing when I watched this that bothered me is, he starts making an announcement and he's like, I want you to keep coming, keep giving. That means dollars, right? I may be out for a few days, few weeks, whatever. Don't quit giving. Cha-ching. Really bothers me. The other thing that bothers me is he has preached a whole sermon and he basically gets up and says, don't talk about this amongst yourselves in this building. Whatever. Whatever. But he doesn't, he's like, I'm running on adrenaline. Okay. So I watched this. This is the first thing that I watched. Okay. I kind of saw the headlines and I was like, that is, kind of different. So I started looking on X. I started looking everywhere, okay? And the more I looked, the sicker I got, okay? Just the sicker I got. This is going to take just a second because I didn't have this one pulled up. Let me show you a post. The next thing I did is I looked at a post from the New York Times, I believe. Yeah, here we go. And the reason that I'm covering this is basically because, as you'll see, as more things start getting out, this case really, really needs brought to public attention, okay? I don't know, my internet is kind of a little sketchy tonight. I don't know what's going on. But, yeah. Please share, share, whatever, and I'll tell you that again. But let's take a look at this, okay? Because we're going to read this article. Hold on. Hopefully I can get a new computer sometime soon. This one is just not, I don't know if it's my internet or. I literally have no idea what is going on here. Yeah, that's so weird. Okay. New York Post. I completely went out, didn't I? Okay, here we go. Yeah, it restarted my whole stream over, or from my end it did. I know it doesn't always for your end even. Hello there. Man, I'm having so many problems. Buckeye Clay fan. Yes, he seems so robotic, no emotion at all. Yeah. Yeah, I agree, Samantha. I may be cynical, but why wouldn't he say I'm running on shock? Adrenaline indicates fear, physical. Shock would be more hurt, emotional. Yes, absolutely. Um, my biggest problem from the get go was if I am married to a spouse, okay, and they unexpectedly, let's say this happened exactly like he says it did, I I wouldn't be able to get up and preach the next day. I mean, I got a call last night. This is what happened. My God, there is no way I would be able to hold it together and stand up in front of people. Maybe at the most, feeling an obligation to let the congregation hear this from your lips. Maybe at the end of the service, say, I'm sorry, I'm torn up. This is, whatever. This was, but again, you'll see why. Um, so I'm going to start with the New York Post, okay? Oh man, all my videos are gone. Jeez Louise. Okay. What happened just a few minutes ago? Uh, but let's look at this. All right. So, and I can't say all these words. A South Carolina pastor claimed his wife of unaliving herself Saturday, 6 months after she filed for divorce, as her family pleaded for police to deeply investigate the sudden death. Mica Miller, 30. Oh my gosh. Don't you love ads? Mica Miller, 30, was found to have suffered a fatal shot to the head at Lumber River State Park in Lumberton, North Carolina. Miller's husband, John Paul Miller, is the pastor at Solid Rock Church in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, who broke the news of her passing away during a recent service after asking his congregation not to discuss it inside the church. I got a call late last night. My wife passed away. It was self-induced and it was up in North Carolina, he said, before he gave the details of her planned service. Of course, he asked for prayer. We heard all that. There's a picture of them. I would say in happier times, but I'm not really sure they were happier times, as we'll see. Friends of the pastor's late second wife were taken aback over Mica Miller's death and urged officials to look into it deeply. This has to at least be looked into deeply. There's got to be some accountability here, Ken Young told WPDE, because, a tragic life was lost, and it's not just as simple as mental health issues. Officers, let's go on down here. They have an open investigation. They are in the process of gathering information from people in South Carolina and North Carolina. She actually lived, I believe the church is in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. McLean revealed there is no indication of the community being in danger. And again, they reiterate what John Paul said, which is she struggled. She struggled with this before. Okay. And, as he said that there was, I don't know what medicine he's talking about that they couldn't get a hold of that was hard to get. I don't know of any psych drugs that are hard to get. All right. Let's see. Now, this comes from the family. Let's move on down here. There's a lot of talk already going on, so I want to set the record straight. Our sister, Mica Miller, passed away yesterday. Please do not listen to false stories being shared about her. And this is in reference to her unaliving herself and her mental health issues. Micah was a God-fearing, joyful, loving woman who did not deserve the abuse she endured. If you hear anything about this from anyone other than her family, please question it. Her siblings or parents. Keep our family in your prayers, and if you have any information that needs to be shared, please contact us. Now, they do, just FYI, they do have a GoFundMe. I don't have the link to that because, clearly this was unexpected. Now, Micah was, look at this, she was the worship leader, the graphics designer, youth leader, women's ministry leader, and the pastor's assistant. Wow, she was a busy woman. And they had 4 kids. Now, let me just tell you about the 4 kids. They were not Micah's, okay? They were his kids when they got married. Her last Facebook post, and that is one of the pictures up there. When terrible, terrible, terrible things happen to you, y'all know what I'm talking about. And she's got a picture of herself, RPF, resting peace face. All right. Now, let me go back. Wow. My computer has just about had all it can handle with all these tabs open. All right. Yeah, my pastor wouldn't be preaching probably for weeks in that situation, as you wouldn't expect anybody to. And there is some footage of the way, and if I can, once I get rid of a lot of this, I can play that. I'm just like, I'm at overload right now. Yeah. You're right, something to say. I think only a sociopath could do that, preach a sermon and make that announcement, right? It's crazy. All right, so as I was looking into this, and I'm like, the first thing I thought, of course, watching that announcement is, this ain't right. Like, yeah, it's not right. Then I started looking at the stuff. Then I went to X and to Facebook, and y'all, there aren't even words. This woman, she needs some justice, okay? Let me go to actually let me pull up a video file that was here until my computer decided to throw up on itself. Oh, wait. Sorry, y'all. I had everything all here. This is what happens. Technology, don't you love it? All right. Here we go. While it's uploading. Yeah, so I've got some stuff I want to show you. Maybe while I'm waiting for that, I'll get to something else. There's so much to look at here, and I did a deep dive, okay? All right, this is from X. This might be the last few minutes of his sermon. Let me see if this is what... Yeah, never mind, because we just watched that. Uh-oh. Oh my gosh. The technical difficulties tonight are beyond. All right, let me go ahead and do this one. But take a look at this. All right, I'm going to have to get my glasses out here. This is highly interesting. When you start looking at the legal stuff. Okay, see, let me make this bigger for just a second. If you look back and look to the dates on the right, on October 8th of 2023, all right, Micah is the plaintiff for a divorce. All right, she files for divorce, or she tries, in October. Now look at this. Back in he immediately, you'll see this in just a minute, he immediately turns around and files for support for him, the kids, like he wants child support from her. Now, I don't know if she adopted those kids, but those kids are not biologically hers. And he's the pastor. I assume of a bigger church that you would make the most money. But no, he turns around and sues her. Okay, then look over here. We're around this again in April 15th. We have I think she files and then he files. Okay, now this is the timeline, and it says here's what we now know. In October of 2023, Micah filed for divorce. That case was dismissed in February of 2024. In February of 2024, Pastor John Paul filed for support and maintenance. That request was dismissed. Well, thank God, because he, I'm sure, was the breadwinner. On April 16th, 2024, Micah filed for support and maintenance. All right? Because they were actually, I think at this time, already separated. So she goes and she files. Of course, the church is mostly unaware of this. A hearing notice was sent out on April 23rd with a court date set in June. Now, I understand that he was actually served with these papers on the 26th. So that sounds about right. If the hearing notice was sent out, it may have been a couple of days before he actually received it. Now, at this point, she was not at the house. She passes away on April 28th. Wow, that's really crazy, seeing as how you have a court hearing for divorce coming up. And, wow. That is really unfortunate timing. Okay. Before her death, Micah uploaded a series of videos suggesting she was abused. So we are going to look at some of those. Give me just a minute and we will look at those. Yes. Hello, Shelley Kemp. Yes, this case is so strange. That is a good question, Buckeye Clay fan. I have looked and looked. I did find her name somewhere, but I could not find any information. I'm sure it's going to come out, and I have been looking at X, and I've been looking at the Facebook groups. I've been looking at stuff all day long trying to find out what happened. But it gets so much worse, okay? So much worse than what we're looking at now. Okay, check this out. Now, this was taken... These two pictures, this right here, I don't know if you can see my cursor. The guy on the left, you just see his head above the car, and you see this young woman with him. This was taken by somebody who, in the area that observed this. Now, this is just a couple of days afterwards, after this whole announcement, right? And it's like, I guess you just got to get back on the dating scene 3 days after your wife passes. And then you can see here, I just think in the picture on the left, he's kind of surprised looking. He knows. I think at this moment, he knows that he's been photographed. And then you can see on the right, this woman with him, she's obviously upset, got her hand over her mouth. And I'm like, why on God's earth? Why on God's earth would you go out a couple of days after your wife passes to a restaurant with another female? And you're not even sitting on the opposite side of the table. You're sitting right beside her. I don't know what kind of restaurant this is. I don't know if it's one of those that you're supposed to sit next to somebody. But what I do know is no pastor or self-respecting anybody would be out with another woman a few days later. Oh, but John Paul, he has no shame. All right. It gets worse. All right, and they have taken out some of the names. These are from Facebook posts, all right? And so I just wanted to, they want some anonymity, and I get it. J.P. Miller has been grooming girls since he was at Cathedral Hall in the late 90s and early 2000s. His father, And we've got a whole nother article about his father. His father was arrested for hooking up in a men's shower. And his charges, now his father was like married, to a woman. So if you're in a church, this is a problem, okay? His charges were expunged after completing a program. He was later arrested for multiple charges related to falsifying documents, forced labor of J1 students who paid to travel to the U.S. to attend his Bible college, failure to pay them even minimum wage, failure to provide them with adequate shelter and food, and more. Can you imagine? You take something, my God. The apple, that is JP, did not fall far from the tree. This man is not godly and terrorized his estranged wife for years after grooming her while he was still married, and she was only 14. Okay, so he met Micah. I believe he was around 28. She was 14. He starts grooming her. Now, remember, he's already, at this time, got a wife and kids. But let's go on. Go to Micah's Facebook and see her videos, her posts, and know that her obituary is still JP's way of manipulating with his narcissism and praising himself. I've read the obit. It's sickening and heartbreaking to know that even her passing, he took advantage of her. Micah had filed for divorce and was no longer the wife J.P. Miller made her out to be in her obituary. Oh yeah, it's glowing. It's just glowing, raving. Nor was she the troubled soul he presented her to be during the last few moments of his sermon after joking and laughing and never appearing bothered by her death, only to briefly mention it in closing. Yeah, as though she were an afterthought. That's exactly the way he acted. The sermon is on the Solid Rock YouTube, and and can be easily viewed, and that's where we got that from, and we'll probably watch just a snippet more. I hope and pray justice is served by law and by God upon this false prophet and sorry excuse, I agree, for a human being, and that Micah's family finds peace and comfort, knowing she is no longer by her estranged husband's side. Okay. Yeah. Some of these are scathing. Now, again, these are people that know them. This was a complete shock to me. When John Paul first brought a prophet to the church, I didn't know what to believe until I heard messages and prophecies from God. I don't know how this person hears what she does, but I believe it's possible. I also believe that there is justice being served on Micah's behalf. Well, I hope so. I hope John Paul does take a break from the stage. I feel bad that the church has taken a turn. I would never thought it possible. I never planned on stepping away. I merely planned to stop attending the Sunday a.m. services. I couldn't understand how we could be told that God didn't want me to talk about my husband's socks on the floor or arguments we could be having, but yet he would actually be sharing that Micah could have a mental illness. And see, that tells me that there is some kind of personal relationship there with these people, All right, let me go on to the next one. All right. As I was sitting in church today, I received a text message. Usually I don't check my phone and I keep it on silent. But with everything going on with my sister Micah, I've made it a point to try to keep an eye on it for fear of her safety. This says March 17th. For fear of her safety due to others' behavior towards her. To no surprise, it was a message about what was said from the pulpit today in Myrtle Beach at her church. I have so much sadness that someone could take the position that was hopefully given to them by God and use it for their own benefit, abusing God's gift of free will. All right, skip on down a little bit. It says... Now, see, I don't even understand what this sermon was about. This was obviously in March. But look down where it says, when the pastor is married and he's on stage giving a sermon saying he's going to pray to God for a hot wife. What? Sir, you're already married. And I mean, like, she's gorgeous. That should raise a million red flags. When a pastor is on stage in a sermon saying he's going to wave to all his Facebook haters on his private plane on the way to Miami, that should raise a red flag. Yes, it should. When a pastor is up there saying that he's angry at God for always making his sermons about what he's going through in his life, you should take that as a red flag. When the pastor is saying he shouldn't be up there preaching to you, you should hear what he's saying and take it seriously. I can only imagine how emotionally straining it is for Micah having somebody in a position of influence spreading lies about her to the entire congregation. Wow. So he's spreading lies, and he's up there giving a sermon saying that he's going to pray for a hot wife. I'm speechless. I'm speechless at this whole thing. Okay. Let's see. This was shared, and it's a lot of it is kind of a complaint about some personal things about how controlling he was. Look down towards the bottom of the first one. One of the most troubling things I watched is how he took everything from one young girl who eventually became his wife. And then this one below it. We watched a grown man groom a youth member for years. We watched him take absolutely everything from her. We watched him destroy her mentally. So maybe that's where her mental problems came from, her depression. We watched him destroy his own family during the process. We've watched him play God over a congregation for over a decade. He is a true wolf in sheep's clothing. He has stayed untouchable. He has put himself at the top of everything. He has gotten away with all of his wrongdoings. I am so sorry, Mica Miller. You deserved better. You deserved our help and our love. I will carry this guilt forever, knowing I should have done so much more. Wow. My question, I guess, for some people is like, did you stay in the church? That's my question. Or, were you just watching this from the outside? Here is a text, just in case there is any question on her mental status. Now, also remember that she had a hair appointment and she was talking to, her family and friends about being excited about this new chapter. Y'all ladies know. When you have a major breakup or a major emotional crisis, or definitely during a breakup, the first thing you do, what? You go out and you get a haircut. You change the color of your hair. You do whatever. Like, it is our way of starting fresh. It's our way of just erasing the past. Starting fresh, looking forward to life. We all do it. Like, don't do it. Like, if you break up, don't get a breakup haircut. There's a song. Yeah, but don't do it. Wait a while. But anyway, so she's talking to someone and she is saying, thank you for your gentle warnings throughout the years regarding my relationship with JP. I know that you knew I wasn't ready to get out, but looking back, your warnings were very helpful when trying to make tough life decisions. Definitely have replayed our convos in my head over and over throughout the years and wished there was something I could do to get out. And now I've done it. Okay, this is on April 5th, right? And then this is, the response from the friend, glad to hear it, blah, blah, blah. The last thing that she says to this friend, yes, things are looking up and are headed in a great direction. Now that, coupled with her hair appointment and everything else, doesn't sound to me like someone who is planning to unalive themselves, right? Not at all to me. All right. Let me pull this back for just a second. Yes, 100%. You don't get through your hair done before unaliving yourself. Something to say. I've attended lots of churches in my life, most like this one, non-denominational evangelical Christians. Same, something to say. I can't fathom any of the pastors doing what he did, preaching, then saying, oh, by the way. Exactly. Hello, oddball. He is full of the devil. Yes. Oh, we're going to get there. Yes, 100%, Samantha. He was demoralizing his wife with the statement about praying for a hot wife. Exactly. What was she? I mean, she was absolutely stunning. All right. So this one is a little bit of a long one, but it's kind of worth it, okay? And this is from Angela Bryan Clark. I know this is long, but it is the truth. Please take the time to read. Mica Miller deserves our total honesty and support. So here I sit for almost a week, mourning the death of Mica Miller, watching, waiting, and praying for answers. I have only posted on her and how I have felt about losing someone who was such a sweet soul. I miss her, and I'm struggling to wrap my head around her being gone and the circumstances surrounding her death. I will not sit here and pretend that I know exactly what happened on Saturday, but I know a lot. I am well aware in the past that Micah had mental health issues, and I witnessed her struggle firsthand. But I also know that in the last few months, this has been used as a weapon to control her. The Micah I saw at the beginning of her mental health journey was not the Micah I witnessed in the last month. The Micah I was seeing was a grown woman trying to break the chains of an abusive marriage. When I talked to Micah last, she was making plans, moving forward, and trusting God. Her faith was her shield. She had reconnected with people she had been isolated from, myself included. And, that is, we'll talk about that. That is something, y'all know, the pattern of abuse. She was sorting out her new normal, and God was putting the right people around her. When we had our first meeting in years, we sat at lunch and talked until dinner time, 5 hours. We had been in regular communication since that day. I was part of Micah's church for years. We did life together during that season. Leaving that church was one of the hardest things Brian and I ever did. We loved the people of that church, but God had made it clear that we needed to go because it was a toxic environment. We endured relentless attacks from the pastor. It was unlike anything we had ever experienced. In ministry, God calls us where he needs us, and instead of supporting and loving us, our entire family came under attack. There were attempts to sabotage us in our new church home. Listen to this crap, okay? Calls made to employers, dropping in at my place of business in the middle of my work week when I refused to answer calls. The calls, more than I can count, emails that were rants and writing. It was a nightmare for close to a month. Micah wasn't just leaving a church, she was leaving her marriage. She was done. She hired a lawyer. She moved out, and she was getting a divorce. She was left with nothing but her faith, her family, and her small circle of friends. Was it hard? Yes. She had her tires cut. Oh my God. Multiple times. Found multiple trackers on her car. Couch hopped in fear of being found and was hospitalized by her husband when it was completely unnecessary. Confided to me that she felt, she felt like an orphan and feared that no church would want her because of him. What a crap. What she didn't know is that a large portion of us who had experienced the wrath of exiting that church were waiting for her with open arms. I talked to her multiple times in her final week here on earth. She was making plans to get her haircut, getting help with her car payment because she was a little short after paying her divorce lawyer, and planning to meet us for the second service at church on Sunday. My final text to her was on a Friday at 9:19 p.m. was a woman making plans to live. I mean, I'm glad that she reconnected, because this lady knows firsthand everything, all the abuse that she was going through. And look, I'm going to tell you something. I've been in abusive relationships, more than one. I have really never, I haven't had it to this, but I'm far too mean. Let me just put it that way. My tires haven't been slashed, stuff like that. Have I had to hide out sometimes? Yeah, briefly. I can imagine what she was going through, because in this environment, in a church environment, the pastor, and it sounds like they had him on a pedestal, or he had himself on a narcissistic pedestal. Okay, what he says goes. So you have people that have exited, and they know what this is about. But you have newcomers that, they drink the Kool-Aid, okay? They don't see the wrong in this. And so to try to get out of a situation like that, yeah, you're demonized, and you are made to feel like, is there ever going to be a place for you? Will you ever be accepted somewhere? Divorce is absolutely a no-no for a pastor in a church like this, okay? How are you going to counsel somebody and, tell them to stay together when your, marriage is in the toilet? It is a very hard, and a lot of people will shun you, I guess is the best word. I mean, it's not an Amish thing, but it's that kind of shunning. But what you have to remember about Micah is, unfortunately, she had known him since she was 14. Being groomed by him. So, I mean, that twists your mind. It's different, if you are in a mature adult in a bad marriage. You were an adult when you got married. This, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I think that this relationship with John Paul was probably the biggest source of her mental health issues, depression, whatever, anxiety, feeling any which way that she did, hopeless for the future, because you're stuck there. You're the pastor's wife, everything's got to be all roses, right? Man, my heart goes out to this family. Yeah, she definitely, if he started with her at 14, yeah. You're right. Something to say. Her brain matured around all of his abuse. Man, can you imagine? All right. This is the rest of that. What happened between Friday night and Saturday? I was so overwhelmed seeing two certain people on the news last night trying to minimize Micah by painting her mentally ill and crying like they were currently present in her life. They were not. She wasn't having a mental meltdown when the scales were lifted from her eyes and she walked away. She was a warrior wearing the full armor of God. That breaks my heart. It really does. And here you see, look at her. She's absolutely, stunning. There he is. Look, this is what bothered me about that whole hush, Mina. That whole whatever announcement. And this is where that picture is taken from. Look at him. He's got his hand on his heart, okay? His body language is saying, I'm sincere. Believe me, this is so painful. This is what he's trying to convey, in my opinion, with his hands, while his eyes and his emotions and his words display the complete opposite. It's like a blip on his dang radar. Oh, I got a call last night. My wife has passed away. Oh, but y'all, let me clutch my heart. Y'all don't quit coming to church and don't quit freaking giving. Right? Oh, I'm getting hot. I'm sorry. I'll take it down a notch. See, because the thing is I am very, very aware of how churches work. And again, I'm a Christian person. I have nothing, bad to say about Jesus or God. But these people who want to set themselves up as gods, I have a big problem with that. I have a big problem with how you are emotionally when you're announcing your wife's death in a horrific way, but you still have the presence of mind to say, don't forget the offerings, don't stop coming, because we know if you're not coming, you're not putting money in the plate, are you? No, you're not. Man. Okay. Okie dokie. Let's look at something else. All right. And now I am so not sure. Okay, yeah, let's look at this. This is something that this is from Micah, all right? So let's listen. This is on, I think this may have been on TikTok, but they shared it on X. Make sure y'all can hear it. All right.
Heart's a little heavy. I've had a lot of women that have reached out to me about situations of abuse. And I just want to tell you what a lot of people have told me lately and reminded me, because I think I forgot. I knew, but I pushed it in the back of my head just because of my situation. But you are the bride of Christ. Before anybody else's bride, male or female, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what gender you are. Abuse is abuse. And you are the bride of Christ. And my Bible says that he took all the abuse you could think of for you so that you didn't have to live that life of slavery and bondage and pain. Jesus took it all for you. So you don't have to stay in a abusive relationship, whether that's sexual, whether that's somebody forcing you to take illegal drugs, or alcohol abuse, or physical abuse, psychological abuse, making you think that this is all your fault, or you're a bad mom, or you're a bad wife, or you're a bad husband, or you're not giving it your all when you know you are. God hates divorce, but why? According to everybody I've asked and the scriptures that I've found, it's because it hurts people. But does abuse hurt people? How do you think God feels about that? So I want to remind you, like a bunch of people have been reminding me lately, that I'm God's bride first. And even an earthly spouse who's a good spouse, when they know that their bride is being hurt, just imagine what an earthly spouse does. What do you think your heavenly spouse does when you're the bride of Christ and he sees his bride going through abuse and hurt? What do you think he thinks about that? So, encouragement in all this is you are the bride of Christ first before anybody else's. And he's got you. And he sees you. And he loves you.
That's heartbreaking to me because she says it without saying it. You can tell that it's not a friend. You can tell by her emotions, that she's not talking about a close friend. She's describing abuse that she has endured. Now, I know something to say. I wish I had known her too. I really do. If it's true that he was already moving on, was there something bigger that she was going to expose? We'll talk about that too. If they didn't share kids, so it's unusual to be so extreme in a divorce. His image was crumbling, possibly. Yeah, I think his image was crumbling. It was certainly, if you're not in the church world, you don't understand how big a deal divorce is. Like, it can completely, and a pastor to get, divorced, man, that's a big one. That is a big one. You have to be able to completely demonize your wife. And I don't know if anybody in chat or later that watches this video, if you know, put a comment on this video. I'd like to know what the deal was with the kid's mom. I don't know how he got out of that. But the only way you are going to get out in a church, in an evangelical church like this, the only way you're going to get out of a marriage is if you can prove infidelity. All right. But now, or, something extreme like that, an extreme reason. But the problem with Micah is people knew her. She was, all the jobs she had. She was worship leader. She was women's ministry leader. She did all this stuff. People she interacted. She knew people. They knew her. So it will be very hard for a pastor in that situation to demonize his wife and, convince everybody, if he was going to do that, take that route, that she is having an affair, right? Because people that know you. So what would his alternative be? Well, if he couldn't demonize her, she has to be gone, like forever, right? So the next course of action would be, she unalived herself. It was mental health problems. Poor him. Poor him. He's wifeless. But he's out on a date a couple of days later. And so let's talk a little bit about that. If you go into Facebook and you go into all these people that have known them, they say that he's been actually unfaithful since about 2020, 2021, somewhere around in there. I believe they said her name was Suzanne Skinner. I'm not going to show her picture. I don't know. That could be the one that's in the picture that I showed at dinner. I'm not sure. But let me tell you something interesting about this woman that he allegedly, okay, I don't know, I wasn't there, allegedly has been carrying on with. She was married as well, but a few years ago, I think it was around in 2021, she was married to a guy who was in a wheelchair. Okay, that's a hard thing. But strangely enough, he unalived himself as well, because this is what I read, he was in the wheelchair, but yet he went out to the pool, fell into their pool, and drowned. Oh my goodness. What are the odds? What are the odds that two people who are seeing each other both have spouses who are just, unalive themselves? Does this, ring any bells? Does it, bring up maybe Daybell and Vallow? I'm getting those vibes, okay? I'm getting those vibes. Now, this has been reported over and over and over that some people did know that was going on. And for that reason, yes. Was his image crumbling? It doesn't take a lot to make people wonder. Yeah, what a hot mess. Absolutely. Let's see. Uh, let me look at the next thing. I think we've already got that one. And that's her abuse. Let me see now. Let me look at this one for a second. I was trying to find the one that has part of his sermon. I don't even know what this is. What the heck? Hey, I don't know what that is. All right. Well, I can't find it. But yeah. So, we've got absolutely the makings of not only someone who is saying they're abused, but who goes off, unalives themselves at a very strange time. Man, I mean, I don't want to say it's good fortune, but dang, he's not going to have to go through a divorce. He's not going to have to pay any alimony or anything like that. Jeez. What are the odds? Okay? What are the odds? Hello, Grace Nicholson. I don't think she did it to herself either. I don't. Looking at her, Facebook, which there's not a whole lot on there anymore, looking at her videos, and it's heartbreaking to think that she was groomed. Now, like I said, there was his dad. We read a little bit about that, but it goes deeper. I mean, it goes deeper. And all the ministries he was involved in. I guess he was, I did not recognize his name, but when I was reading about him, there were a lot of big name people that apparently he was in collaboration maybe with it from time to time. And yeah, you have to say, clearly the apple didn't fall far from the tree on this one. I mean, so what do you think? It's just breaking, okay? It's just news. Like I said, they're having the memorial service for her on Sunday. I'm going to be very interested to know what he says at this point. Now, it is a full-blown investigation, okay, because of all this stuff. The Robeson County, I think it's Robeson County, or the police are looking into this, all right? Because so many people in the area have stepped up and said, hey, you need to investigate this because this is not in her character. This is not something that Micah would do. I guess my question is, how far do we let somebody go before we start saying something? Because if people knew Micah, and you saw from so many things that I read out, that there were people who had left the church that knew, okay? There were people in the area that had seen firsthand abuse. Like, look, if my pastor called me, if I left the church and my pastor started calling me at work, and then when I didn't answer, showed up at my work, I'm going to tell you something. The first thing I do is slap a harassment suit on somebody. If I don't answer the phone and I'm not responding to your messages, guess what? I don't want to talk to you. Please don't tell me he will preside over the funeral. I mean, it seems at this point that he is going to. But here's the thing. The family and friends are asking us as people to share, to talk about this, to bring public attention, because that is, I'm not saying the police by any means aren't doing their job, but there is something very unique that happens, and we saw it in Riley Strain, Sebastian Rogers, Caleb Harris, and some of the other ones. Like, look, these were cases things that are going on, missing people, whatever, that nobody ever expected was going to really be brought to mainstream media. Okay, that people weren't going to talk about. And it could be swept under the rug. But the beautiful thing about, TikTok and YouTube and Instagram and all the social media is that we collectively, as people, can join together and bring this out in the open and say, hey, look, once you get that public attention on a case, it is very, very hard for the police, for, the families, for whatever, for the perpetrators to hide. They can't stop hiding because guess what? Y'all lovely people sleuth like nobody's business and dig up all kinds of stuff. And then it puts the puzzle pieces together. Whereas a beautiful soul like Micah may have been swept under the rug because of, whatever, friends in high places, payoffs, whatever. I don't know. But the thing is they can't pay off everybody. They can't sway you and me. I don't know these people. I'm just looking at the facts. And I'm looking at the facts that you have someone up here who, it blows my mind that you have known this girl since she was 14. You were married with kids. You started hanging out. You started grooming her. And all of a sudden, boom, you're married to her. And now she's mentally ill and has unalived herself after so many years. When you put it in black and white and you take out the personalities and you take out the charisma, okay, of this pastor, and you start talking about all right, let's just look at it as a crime case. You've got this, you've got this, you've got this, but it ain't mathin'. It ain't mathin'. 2 + 2 doesn't equal 7. So how do we have a 7 over here when it doesn't add up? That's important. It's important for justice. It's important for Micah. It breaks my heart that this woman is no longer alive because of the abuse that she suffered, allegedly. Allegedly. But how many people can be this wrong? And yet there are so many staunch supporters for John Paul. The people around the church. This is what a pastor will do. All right. I've seen it so many times firsthand. I've been in so many churches in my life. Let me tell you something. And I did a whole video on this about how to know if you're in a cult, all right? Or the signs of a cult leader, or that they're going somewhere with this. All right, lack of accountability. When you have a church leader that is the guy, all right? He makes all the decision. He makes the rules. He alone hires and fires and whatever. And someone maybe even respectfully disagrees and says, hey, Pastor, I think you're wrong about this. Let me, tell you why. I think maybe you should, whatever. And you are met with resistance and someone is saying, oh, no, I am the pastor. It is my church. First of all, it's not your church. If it's your church, then everybody ought to leave because it needs to be God's church. But I would say a large percentage of churches in America and probably worldwide are not truly God's churches. In my opinion, they are man's churches. And there is where the problem lies. But anytime that you have someone who is not teachable and who is above reproach, and then something happens like this, and then he's calling the congregants, I'm being, people are saying these horrible things. They're not true. I'm being slandered. Does that happen sometimes? Sure it does. But look at the character. Look at the past. Let me tell you something. And this is important for you church people. Character and anointing are not the same thing, okay? Because when you look at the charisma that John Paul has, and he's, he's talking, you go back, you can look on their church, YouTube, and see, like, he's very charismatic. He's funny sometimes. I haven't watched a whole lot of it because I felt like I wanted to puke, but that's because I know the type. But for someone who doesn't know the type, and you're following this guy and you think, oh, he's a great guy, beautiful wife, beautiful kids. It's, they both work in the church. It's a lovely couple. Everything's, sunshine and roses. You look at him and you see the charisma, and you get sucked in by that. And you think, even because you feel God in the room, that he is absolutely a good guy, right? No, that's called anointing. And that has nothing to do with character. So don't get confused. Just because someone has all of this going on, it doesn't mean that is who they actually are. And character is far more important than charisma or anointing or whatever you understand it to be. And that gets a lot of people. So they're like, oh, the pastor would never do anything like that. Look at him. I mean, God is moving. All these people are getting saved or coming into the church or whatever they're doing. That means squat. It means squat. If your character does not align with what you're teaching, it means absolutely nothing. So please, never forget. And it's okay to question. If you see something in a leader, any leader, that doesn't quite look right, you question it. You question it. And if you are met with resistance of, oh no, don't question me. I'm the pastor. I'm the deacon. I'm whatever. How dare you? I want to tell you something. That's your first big fat red flag, because anybody with integrity and anybody who is honest and really trying to do the right thing, they will be like, oh my goodness, let me explain this situation. And if you are doing something wrong, your heart, and somebody brings it to your attention and your heart is right and your character is good, you're going to say, oh my gosh, you're right. You're right. I need to fix this. Anybody who resists questioning or authority has a problem. And that is not somebody you want over you. And the chances are that if you are saying one thing, there's like 10,000 other things going on in their life. And it's okay. It's not like, God is going to strike you with lightning because you're questioning a pastor or a leader. I don't care how far up in the organization they are. You know what? It doesn't matter. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And if you are saying or feeling something that's not right, go to that person. And if they won't hear it and they resist it, then walk out. But see, Micah, she didn't have that opportunity when she was young, because she was in this situation where he was put up on a pedestal and he was grooming her. And I'm sure the day that she married him, she thought her life was going to be wonderful with this man, because she was young and she didn't have the chance to mature and get past this. So then she has, I've read some stuff and I didn't put it up here because it is so horrible. It is so horrible. And I can't verify whether any of this is true. Now, maybe her family could, if through the years she has said to them, this is what John Paul is doing. But there was a lot of, I can't say it, but like SA, y'all know what I'm talking about? It's like abuse, or in the very familiar way, that she was aware that he was perhaps cheating on her. And that there was all kind of abuse, okay? Can you imagine as a child growing up and then being married to that, and having everyone around you saying what a wonderful man this is? It would take a lot. It would take a lot of maturity and a lot of strength. It would take a lot of inner strength to push him away and say, you know what, enough is enough, and I am going to expose you for who you are. And I think that's exactly why that happened to her, because I think you're right. Whoever said that to start with, I think you're absolutely right. She was going to expose him for everything. And now, the world has lost a beautiful, beautiful soul, a human being. And I feel bad for his children. I feel bad for the people who have trusted him all these years. I feel really bad for the people who are standing by him right now, because I'm sure they're in that same mind, what is the word? That mind control, where they're believing every word he's saying. That's just my opinion. But one day they will find out as well, because when they're no longer needed, when they're not important, when he doesn't need them anymore, whatever. Go on. You'll find out. You'll find out. All right. I'm on a rant. I'm on a rant. Let's see. I'm not victim blaming at all, but sometimes you can say something over and over and over, and she'll still say, oh, he would never hurt me. Yes. 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 As a matter of fact, and it wasn't to a physical abuse, but I had a pastor friend of mine, this is years ago. He had married a woman who, she's something else. That's all I'm going to say. She's something else. And he said when they were dating, he noticed, I mean, she was so sweet to him, but he noticed that she got a phone call from, I think, one of her grown kids or something like that. And she got, whatever the conversation was about, she got very, very angry. And she was really scathing. And I'm sure there were some not nice words coming out of her mouth. And she was so angry. And he said, we were dating and I thought, this is horrible, the way that she's talking to him. But she would never talk to me that way. Guess what? Guess what happened after I do? She sure did. And yeah, it's one of those things. It's not going to, however they treat somebody else, they're going to treat you. It's just a matter of time. You can bank on it. I wonder if they would pretend to have her cremated and let him hold the surface. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Yes, please hashtag, y'all. I'm just asking you to share, because I'm probably, the more I learn and the more I can verify, the more I'm going to touch on this over and over and over until we find out exactly what happened. I want to see, just like we do all other crimes, I want to see the autopsy report. If they, hopefully, in a situation like this, they do one. I want to know. I want to know all of those things that it's really hard for the family to hear and to know and to think about, because if it were my family, I don't think I could look at that. But I want to know exactly how, the trajectory. Is it possible? Or is this a Clinton type unaliving? Where it absolutely could not be, but yet this is what they ruled it. Y'all know. If y'all studied that, y'all know. I want to know. 100%. Because even if I knew 100%, even if it made sense, there's something in me that says, I don't believe this, because I do believe her. When she's putting out these, videos, and she is so sincere, I do not believe that somebody in her position that is doing all these other things is going to actually plan to unalive themselves. Okay, so hashtag everything justice for Micah. There's an event in front of the church. They also do a Facebook Live. Oh, good. All right. This is at 9 a.m. I did hear that there was going to be a protest. The church shows closed on Google. Well, you know what? Good. Good. I mean, I hate it that people will get hurt. I'm sure there's some people in the congregation that know nothing about what's going on. They're there sincerely doing their sincere thing, and these people will get hurt. And I'm very sorry for that. So y'all, I will probably put it on my community page again, maybe tomorrow and Sunday, to check out this live event. I definitely want to see it. I wish, honestly, yeah, I don't think I can swing it for stuff I have to do. I would love to go. I would absolutely love to go. The way he ordered the congregation not to talk, totally totalitarian. Yeah. I mean, I think that you should, if you would rather not have it discussed inside the church, the better way to say that would have been, I'm asking you to please, I know y'all have a lot to say. I'm going to ask you to please just go ahead and exit, and then, don't stay around talking about it inside here. And it would be a please, knowing that some people are going to do it anyway. Yeah. Samantha. And stand up, that was weird. Yes, I agree. This man is an apostate. I do. I think that too. You know what? I think honestly, given his family history and the way that he has behaved for so long, if his father is involved in all this stuff, I mean, I don't even know. Maybe he was abused as a child too. Maybe it's a cycle, but still, I mean, is this just the way that you think that life is, and you can do what you want? Yeah, I mean, that does show apostasy for sure. I don't know. I just know that right now, folks, it's really important that we keep hammering on this and the inconsistencies, all right, till we know. And I think that they're doing a good job. If the church is showing closed on Google, that's probably good. And I do feel for the congregation, because there's going to be so much going on, so much turmoil. And again, I'm sad, but maybe people will learn. Maybe they'll learn a very important lesson. Let's see. Tracy Meyer, his oldest son is bipolar and abusive as well. Wow. I mean, not surprising. It's heartbreaking, though. And I mean, I think it offends me way more for someone to be in the church, in church leadership, whatever, taking advantage of people who, I mean, let's face it, when you come to church, you usually don't come because life is great. If you're not a churchgoer, let's say, you didn't grow up that way. If you walk in the doors of a church, there is a reason. And it's usually a painful one. Either you're going through a divorce, or you're having some kind of crisis in your life. There is something. It's like I tell my kids all the time. You know what? You know how humans learn? We learn through pain. It would be great if somebody could just tell us something, or if we could observe something and say, man, that's a bad idea. I'm not going to do that. But we do it. And the only time that we truly learn something is through pain, usually of our own making. But sometimes it's with other people. But you learn through pain how to avoid that pain. So when people come to church, they are usually coming for that reason. Okay? They're being drawn because they have some kind of crisis or need in their life. And then you come into a place where you have these like you're saying, false prophets, these horrible people in leadership. And then you just get hurt again. That's not okay. I mean, it's bad enough to be this kind of person. It's horrible. But I would have less problem with it if you were the CEO of a company, like just a business, whatever, or somebody in your town, But I think that you are drawing vulnerable people to start with, Okay, because if you're coming from a need, you are really needing to receive. You're looking for something. And these people who are acting like this and are, false prophets, whatever, they are taking your vulnerability, trying to mold into and capture you. You know what I'm saying? Because if you just walked up to some random person on the street and you started spouting some of the garbage, well, hey, you, buddy, you need to give 10% to me every week. 10% of your paycheck, God will bless you. Just go ahead, hand it over, give me your debit card. That guy on the street is either going to cuss you out or punch your lights out, okay? That's what's going to happen. But you take that same person 6 months down the road and they're in a very painful or vulnerable position and they need help. Look, you can draw them in and you can say, God wants to help you and I am God's representative. Oh, and, by the way, he wants your money too, but that's not, that's not the big thing, but you have to sow that seed, right? You see how it works? You're vulnerable. You're looking for something. And they take advantage. It's horrible. Yes, Jezebel spirit, absolutely. Why would they write weekly parody songs? To attract the masses. Of course. It's harder now. I hate to say it this way, but, with all the social media and all the stuff that goes on, God kind of has a lot of competition, for distraction. All right, not really, but for distraction purposes. That's why I said when you come, it's because you need something. Your heart is hurting. Your life is hurting. So anyway, I didn't mean to get off on a tangent, but y'all regulars to my channel, you know what I do. I guess I can't help it. My opinion comes out. But I do sincerely ask you to share it. And I'm not saying it because I want you to share look, that's not what this is about. I want this message. I want this knowledge. I want Mica Miller's story out there. I want it to not be able to be ignored because it's important. It's like the one lady said, I wish I could have done more in life. Now it's too late. But you know what? As tragic as that is, there are a lot of Mica Millers out there. There are women who are maybe in that same church. Maybe in the one down the street. Maybe somebody whose husband isn't a pastor but is well known in the community that is living in this situation. I mean, let's let Micah's situation, her story, get out there. Because maybe it will help somebody else to understand. You don't just listen to somebody because they have pastor in front of their name or something. And don't let this be in vain. I mean, I don't think it will be. But, yes. Do I want to see this monster stopped? Yeah. And it's my opinion. Just my opinion that he's a monster, but it is what it is. Just share her story, okay? Share her story. Share the knowledge. Let's keep the pressure. Let's keep the public pressure on this situation until we get to the truth, okay? And I will be updating y'all with what I find. If anybody has anything, I know some people in here I haven't seen before. If you have any links or anything like that it is really good that, we can talk about more, so, expose more. My email is silkyandSouthern@gmail. silkyandSouthern@gmail. And yeah, just please, don't let anybody forget. All right. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm tired. For the regular people, I'll probably do a members only on Sunday, but I'm gonna catch up with some of the other cases too. I'm hot on this one though. And again, thank you so much, Something to Say, for bringing this to my attention because it really is important. All right. Y'all stay safe out there. Okay? Especially if you're in Indiana. Whatever you do, stay silky. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.